Snowflakes, man. Exactly. All my poops are unique, but that doesn't mean I'm going to give them a platform to speak. Nice one. People just got to get out of their echo chambers. Speak to someone with different beliefs than you. You might learn something. Anyways, thanks for coming on my podcast. Your podcast? No, you must be mistaken. This is my podcast.
HAVER is a YouTube comedian and filmmaker, I suppose that's what you'd say. He's made both feature films on his channel and a hell of a lot of comedy shorts, both live action ones as well as animated ones.
The droid caravan's almost here!
What are you so fucking delighted about the droid caravan?
Whilst I love a lot of YouTube comedians, I don't think there's many at all I could make this kind of video about, because as much as I do enjoy it, most of them find a formula for a video that does well in views and they stick to it again and again for as long as the views last.
Do girls as singles mixers? Like speed dating? Do they just use your turn as a breather and step outside to take a phone call? Or smoke a cigarette?
Do girls have birthday parties too?
HAVER, I think, does have a distinctive style, not just his animating style, but the style of the humour itself. However, he doesn't, unlike many others, have a formula for his sketches. They're more creative than that, I think.
Tony Lazzuto, you tell me
Did you hear something? I thought I just heard something.
Playing tricks on me.
Must have been my
imagination.
imagination.
I saw someone.
Despite there being literal hundreds of sketches on his channel, there's always something new and unexpected to find in each of them, which I guess paints the picture of someone who is developing and growing their comedic expression over time rather than sticking to a formula that works.
Hello?
Hello. I'm from the future. I'm you. So, I wanted to give you a couple warnings about the future.
Someone who's exploring. Despite there being a distinct style that I'm going to attempt to break down, I don't know why exactly, I guess I find it interesting, but despite that, there's never a point where watching his sketches feels repetitive. Let me start actually with what sounds a bit like a tangent and say YouTube is the perfect place for comedy sketches, really. Better probably than TV itself was, where you'd get 30 odd minute episodes of sketch shows, compiling lots of them, because on YouTube you can just watch one at a time in more manageable chunks if you want, because when you have to watch a full episode you end up judging them all more as an entire collection, for which I think sketch shows are often seen as hit and miss, whereas with videos, if one doesn't grab you, you can just click off and forget it in place of another one. And also you can always scroll down to the comments where there's someone likely explaining the sketch if you didn't happen to get the joke, or someone quoting a specific bit, which in a situation where you didn't find the sketch particularly funny, you might see someone quoting a bit and think, yeah, I can see why that bit's kind of funny, and it might soften your feelings towards the sketch.
There's 3 suns. You gotta wear a lot of sunscreen. Time goes backwards. When you get up in the morning, you're going backwards. You get up and it's all of a sudden night again.
The biggest appeal, I think, though, is that you get to read a title for the sketch before you click on it, which means you go into the sketch with some idea of what it's going to be. The title can almost set the scene or the idea before anything begins, which can then free up the comedian a lot more. For example, If I Was My Own Therapist. You read that and you have a preconceived notion of what the sketch will be. It means the sketch can jump straight in with,
You're doing great. Yes, you're thriving. You're thriving. You're killing Everything's great.
The Handsome Friend. This will be some sort of sketch about that one friend in your group who's really good looking and how that feels or something. Dad's checking into their Airbnb. When someone shows you a video on their phone, okay, that's going to be about those times you show a friend something you think they'll find hilarious and they don't laugh and it's really awkward and you're unsure whether to turn the video off or let it play through to the end. Kind of thing, you know, you might not know for certain, but there's a concept that you're given that you in some way can understand and relate to, and A lot of comedians use that relatability to go, here is an experience you relate to, here's a sketch exaggerating it for humour. Like, observational comedy, really.
Anyways, big shout out to Squarespace. I don't know what they do and who they are, and I don't know much of anything. Tune in next time when I talk about cancel culture.
The thing about Joel's sketches is they often use the video title to set up an expectation and then veer off in a completely different direction. The Handsome Friend, for example, whatever you might expect that sketch to be, it's just 3 friends sitting around a table, then their 4th handsome friend arrives and the other 3 aggressively complimenting him on weird and specific points of his appearance to a degree that's bizarre and uncomfortable.
Like the peeking chest hair out of your shirt.
I'm like picturing what your chest hair looks like.
Wow, your hands. I've just noticed your hands just now.
Oh. Then when their friend has to go home, they stand there silently watching on as though seeing their lover sail away on a ship or something. When someone shows you a video on their phone is a sketch of Joel just quickly showing his friend something he thinks he'll love, only he's showing him the entirety of the film You Don't Mess With a Zohan on his phone, and they stand there for 110 minutes watching it.
Is this a movie?
Dads checking into their Airbnb, of which there is a series, them at a hotel or a beach or wherever else, I can't remember. That breaks away from the relatability, but in a way that I think works as a bigger point for Joel's sketches. I feel like if most comedians on YouTube made this sketch, it would be a collection of things dads say at an Airbnb or something, and you'd have lots of cuts from moment to moment of them saying typically dad things, each of them being a clear joke providing an exaggerated depiction of dads, I guess. But instead, Joel provides us with a mostly uncut video of 2 dads discovering they have to climb a flight of stairs to get to their room, then them struggling to make their way up, and we just learn more of their characters as they talk while struggling, veering on the edge of heart-to-hearts in moments where they have to stop and rest, only to eventually collapse halfway up, exhausted. Joel's character recounting that one ZZ Top concert he went to years ago.
Frankie.
Hey, what?
Did I ever tell you about that concert I went to?
Hey, what? Eh?
The concert.
What concert?
ZZ Top.
The who?
No, ZZ Top, not the Who.
The concert he's always telling people about, and how there's an odd sting of nostalgia creeping up here.
Oh, it was unbelievable, man.
Oh, wow.
The lights.
Yeah?
I think some of the comments on the video highlight the point perfectly. About halfway through, it stopped being comedy and just became a documentary. The amount of character in this, the humanity made me so emotionally invested. Joel calls all his videos films rather than videos because, well, they are really. Somehow being on YouTube comes with unfair connotations, I think. But more so, his comedy sketches do feel very much like short films, in the sense you are given a degree of character and story, and often something subtly moving that takes you by surprise. Most comedy sketches, for example, have their characters exist solely for the joke they're building up to and delivering. With Joel's sketches, characters seem to exist beyond the joke, and you just get to watch them interact like real people for a bit. Often quite absurd or bizarre, but real people, and I think that's quite rare, actually.
Being a sand creature here in this particular sand pit.
Do it.
You can say that about the structure of his videos too. Normally comedy sketches come with very clear jokes, I guess, even if they are contained within like 2 characters having a conversation or something. It's all structured to emphasize the specific jokes or the point of the sketch. Classic Key and Peele sketch, Auction Block, as just a random example based on it coming up on my recommended again. Slaves are being auctioned off in America, 2 of which stand there naturally talking about how they don't want to be sold and treated like cattle. Only when everyone keeps bidding on lot A instead of them, they start to become offended. Why won't anybody bid for them? They are stronger built.
See, now that surprises me.
A very short man gets bought ahead of them, to which they finally lose their temper.
Look at him! What could he pick? A cotton plant is like this tall!
Leading then to them being called bigots by people who are literally bidding on slaves.
I will not have my reputation tainted selling superficial bigoted slaves. Superficial.
Then the auction ends when they start trying to persuade as though it were a job interview.
My worst quality is that I'm a perfectionist.
Have I mentioned this? Docile.
All of the dialogue in that sense is geared towards a specific joke. This idea of two slaves who start to want to be bored when their insecurities are wounded. It's a very dark sketch, but they build to that point. It gets conveyed, and then the sketch ends. The joke has been served. With Joel Haver, though, sometimes I don't have a clue what the point or overarching joke of the sketch even is. I'm not always sure there is one. I mean, you can kind of get a sense in a very loose way, but often there's so much around that any overarching point kind of isn't the purpose. I have no idea what the point of the Handsome Friend sketch is, but how baffling that is just makes everything funnier. You know, it starts with three of them talking.
So my dad is in the process of getting a new shirt. And like mine, it's white, has like gray and white flowers and...
Is it the same shirt?
Then the friend arrives and picks a chair of his own to sit down.
Oh, that's a good. That's one of the best chairs.
Do you mind?
That's one of the really good chairs.
Then they compliment him uncomfortably, and then they stare to watch him leave. I don't know what's being conveyed. It just kind of floats about like a fever dream you're sucked into because nothing is clearly emphasized as the joke, because there often is just lots of dialogue of characters just conversing in funny ways, but doing it openly rather than to serve a specific joke. Because of all that, the whole experience becomes hilariously strange, I think. Combined with how deadpan most things are delivered or reacted to, where you don't feel like these are actors telling a joke and going, this is the funny bit, but just like another thing this character says that the other character reacts to as though it was the most ordinary thing in the world, that makes it even more baffling, which I think that's what I'm trying to say. Watching a Joel Haver sketch often does feel like you're in a dream world watching things that are close to reality. The scenarios are often very grounded, mundane, ordinary ones. The characters almost always have something quite truthful about them. Nothing dramatic really happens that often, which tends to make them feel like a slice of life film, but everything is just subtly off, faintly odd about what they say and do. An absurd comedy disguised very, very well as a realistic slice of life film.
No, the Titanic wasn't fully improvised.
Yes, it was.
That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
No, it's not. They're just really good actors. They just came up with it on the spot.
No, it's like it's history though.
Yeah, but it happens again. History repeats itself.
Perhaps my favourite sketch is the couple that still hangs out at your hometown's playground, because it's such a specific type of person being portrayed in that video. You read that title and you see the sketch and you immediately, instinctively understand what that type of person is. You think, I've known people exactly like that in my life.
Sum 41. I thought of my favorite band, Sum 41.
It's such a specific type of person that it doesn't even cross your mind until you're shown it. So for Joel to pick up on a niche character well enough to be able to portray it is just a hell of a precise awareness for the world, I think. Consistently, he's very, very good at picking up precise, minute characteristics about different people.
What's up, ugly bitch?
Yeah. What? So, no, if I'm ugly, then, like, I'm not ugly, so, like, fuck you.
But again, it doesn't just convey this character enough for a laugh and then end. We instead get a whole story of two people with a developed history. We get a genuinely touching sense of struggle between a man who half wants to grow up but is also afraid to, and his girlfriend hoping he'll grow up but slowly losing belief in him.
Can I talk to you about
Did I scare you?
Yeah, a little. Can I talk to you about something? Can I just...
Watching the sunset as their time is idly frittered away at the playground until she decides to ditch him there in the dark. She who had wanted to have a serious conversation with him, he who keeps it very much away at arm's length until she just gives up.
I need you to be serious.
You jumped. You jumped.
Yeah, I did, but I...
That's so funny. I wish somebody was recording, because that would be a viral video. Time how fast I could get to the light and back.
It's oddly poetic, I guess. And again, if these touches of genuine emotion and depth were emphasised clearly as big dramatic points, then I don't think they'd feel as surprising and unexpected or as funny. If the absurdity was emphasised clearly, or the jokes were, I think they'd catch you off guard far less.
Son, I love you.
I love you too.
Son, say it and mean it.
I love you too, you old fart.
Say it without the fart.
I love you, okay. Give me a break.
I love you.
Okay.
It's because they merge so fully into the rest of the sketch that they catch you out. You can't tell what's funny half the time, what's absurd, what's moving. They all just blend. The absurd humour then is twice as absurd because it almost feels real rather than clearly being absurd. I hope that makes sense. It's hard to explain, but I'm going to move on now because I feel like I'm labouring this point. The interesting thing about Joel Haver's sketches that also makes complete sense is that they are unscripted and improvised. I think that freedom for the actors to just play around is a big part of why we get a deeper sense of character developing, because they're less limited, I guess, but it also conveys a sense of fun. One of the best things about improvising the comedy is that you get dynamics occurring of actors or friends trying to make each other laugh or catch each other out. A simple example is the sketch titled, Would You Still Be My Friend If? And it's Trent and Joel just sitting opposite each other at a table, seemingly working on their laptops, but interrupting each other to ask ridiculous, would you be my friend if questions.
Trent, would you be friends with me if I laughed like this?
No, I don't think so.
And what you get then is a cross between a simple sketch about friendship and a game of trying not to laugh and trying to make each other laugh. You see every time they break into laughter at the dumb stuff they're doing.
These damn computers never work anymore. Is your computer busted over there too?
Yeah. This shit's busted, what the heck?
In fact, Joel almost always leaves the outtakes in the sketches, not puts them at the end, but leaves them right in the middle, and I think that's odd but really effective.
You girls who watch my YouTube videos think I'm attractive? Do girls do that?
I guess there's just always something intrinsically funny about seeing genuine friends authentically having a laugh. YouTube, I think, was made for that kind of thing. It often gets diluted beneath YouTubers deliberately trying to make everything look as dramatic and overly fun as possible, or putting on deliberately upbeat personas, or laughing like Jimmy Fallon, but authentically having a laugh as they do here. It's just very wholesome, I suppose. The funniest thing about the sketch interviewing for a job isn't anything that's actually said in the sketch so much as seeing Joel as the two interviewers deliberately throwing strange improvised questions at the interviewee, just trying to catch him off guard and make him laugh.
Oh, this is very interesting. It says you spent a couple years as a skydiving instructor.
Is that right? I did not see that.
It also says here you killed 200 people, 200 of your students.
The thing that I failed to write down was that there were 1,000 students.
And how many died?
There were 1,000 students jumping out of the plane, and only 250 died.
250?
250 died, right?
It says 200 here.
200, oh, sorry. I meant 250.
The more you watch, the more you get a sense of the real people behind them, and I think you start to get a sense of togetherness. The odd satisfaction there is from people coming together to make something beautiful, I guess. Often Joel just makes films with his friends or his family, or his feature film 31 Days in Marshall, North Carolina has him spending a month in a town of people he'd never met before and making a movie with all the strangers he met there, drawing them in to have fun messing about on camera, regardless of the fact most of them have never acted or done anything like that. He's also a bloke who put out a video not just explaining how he makes his animations, but puts out a step-by-step clear tutorial and encourages others to play about in the same way for their own videos. Talks about how there are tools out there for anyone to make all sorts of art and creative projects. And I just wonder, I guess, if there's a deep motivation at the heart of all Joel's films that centers around the idea of bringing people together to create something. He says in non-sketch videos or interviews about how he wants to encourage others to make their own art. He seems to be very passionate about that. We have so many free, accessible tools out there to do so. He talks about how he doesn't use scripts or lighting or boom mics and everything else, partly because all of that stuff can be intimidating for ordinary people who aren't used to being in films. There's something more free and natural and unifying, I guess, about just holding a camera and filming whatever the hell comes out along a loose idea. It makes it much less like working and feeling a pressure to perform something good, and more like when you just play about with a camera as kids. His sketches are made in a way that is not only the most fun, but also pulls people together the most. Joel HAVER in that sense feels like one of those very rare people you sometimes come across who has a genuine inbuilt drive to help others grow, bring people together, encourage others to be creative. Perhaps then it's no surprise he promises to watch all 40+ minute films people send him that they've made. I think what makes his videos feel so fulfilling is that you can feel this inbuilt drive at the heart of them. And I don't want this to sound like a criticism of other types of art or comedy, because it's not. They all have different advantages, but I think this deeper sense of togetherness informs the comedy. You know, other people's genuine laughter can be infectious. Other people genuinely having fun is equally infectious, and that's something you don't traditionally get with comedy that sets out to tell a planned joke. So I think that is Joel's style, and if his sketches never fall into a repetitive formula despite having a distinct style, it's because of how free they are, how open they are for other people to have an input. As much as I've tried to set out a typical way his videos work, of course they don't always conform to that because they're made so freely, and I think you can feel him enjoying the chance to explore different ways of doing things. Joel is more interested in having a laugh than he is with creating something perfect, and I think that's actually what makes his videos so creative. They're incredibly skilled at spotting the precise characteristics of humans and conveying them as fleshed out characters. They're very good at subtly mixing the absurdity with grounded reality and surprising heart to the point it's hard to distinguish them. And they leave you with a feeling of togetherness and Joel's own selfless desire to see others becoming creative.
Are we just supposed to tell the Galactic Emperor that we just didn't shoot them?
No. Hold.
I hope this doesn't all come across as pretentious nonsense. Maybe it does. It's very hard to talk about comedy in defined ways like this. Arguably it's a totally redundant thing to do in the first place, but I guess I just have a passion for his videos and I wanted to share my feelings and attempt to explain why I like them so much. Who knows if I've succeeded. Let me know what you think. Let me know what I've missed or got wrong. I've got other, I think, less haphazard and messy videos talking about comedy, such as one on James Acaster, one about Taskmaster, the Konesu trilogy, a criticism of the 2021 Tom and Jerry film that was also sort of pointing out the beauty of the original cartoons. I don't know, enjoy that if you want, subscribe if you want to do that, support me on Patreon if you want extra stuff, but otherwise, hopefully see you next time. And as always, a special thank you goes to Janice McMahon, Luke Hoare, CrzychuKB, Michael Gallagher, InSquares, Dustin Paulson, Tamara Salsi, Sharacroft2814, Joshua C. Follier and Chad Bramwell. Thank you.